You're listening to Creative Campfire, where creatives like you come to talk shop, share stories, and light the path for one another. Whether you're here to learn, grow, or just feel a little less alone, welcome to the fire. I'm excited to be at the fire today with my co-host, Lauren. Yay! Lauren's back. Her voice is feeling a little bit better today, so we actually can have a conversation.
Right.
Good to see you, friend.
And I don't have to type it. It's really good to see you, too. I have been learning a lot about taking care of my voice this year the hard way. I'm very happy to be back here chatting.
Speaking of chatting, we were talking about... you were sharing a story with me recently about your friend who runs a design/website branding business.
Yeah, let's keep her anonymous at the moment, just because I don't know if she'll, I want to dig into a situation she was struggling with.
But I do
There's
think
so many design friends. It could be anybody.
I think what's interesting, though, is I just want to kind of preface this at the top of the conversation, which is, we're living in really interesting times. Interesting may not be the word of choice for most people at this moment in time.
Is my favorite.
But from a business standpoint and from a creative business standpoint, it's been overall the conversations I've been having are fairly difficult, right? At times are slow, or I'm sending in proposals after having conversations with the potential client. I have my conversations, I get the information, I put the proposal together, I send the proposal, then they get back with me. They get back to whoever it is that I'm having this conversation with and saying, well, I have 50% of that, right? And so it's like, then you're kind of a little bit of a deer in headlights at that point going, well, we've had this conversation. I've given you some ideas of what it was going to cost. And now you've come back with 50% of what we discussed. And now you're left in this kind of zone of, can we cross that chasm, right? Is there a way to have them come up a little bit? Is there a way for you to come down a little bit? Is there a meeting somewhere in the middle? So to give you an idea of where we're going with this conversation, that's kind of to spark the fire for you, if you will, about where we're headed.
I feel like this is a conversation I know I haven't, we've both been having with people a lot, right? Even it feels like we haven't really, when was the last time there wasn't chaos going on? But, even when there aren't times of very obvious, national and global, chaos and economic weirdness, this is very just what it's like to be a creative entrepreneur, right? Is this is always a struggle. We feel it a lot more intensely, when everybody's feeling the intensity. So, this idea of, I love that, of how do we cross the chasm? And advice that I've always found helpful and important to keep in mind is that you try to really be careful about backing down from your cost for nothing, right? Just a straight up I'm just going to give you the same thing and just accept and devalue it. I'll do the same thing for half of what I said I need to be doing it at. That's really hard. So that is why I feel like it's really helpful to have specific parameters around it is this price, and that includes this much time and these many deliverables and this type of licensing, because those give you different levers that you can pull in the event of someone saying, well, here's what the budget is, which is how about just tell us up front what your budget is and what your goals are. And then everybody can feel better instead of I don't know that clients who have never been photographers and creative freelancers understand you're literally just backing us into a corner. It sucks. So it's just tell us, you know the range you want to be in. You're just hoping that we won't come close to it because you are convinced that we're just going to try to get the most. Anyways, sorry to the tangent. So my friend comes to me and she's telling me about how she has an opportunity to do some ongoing vendor work with a university system client, right? And so, and like uh, I've done this a lot for the past few years, right? I used to be in-house for KSU, and since leaving KSU, I have worked with them as a vendor and have been able to work with other institutions in the university system of Georgia as a contractor. And that's great work, right? And sometimes now my experience has been that I just say, this is what my rate is. Sometimes I get pushback and people will be like, we don't have that in our budget. And I'll say, okay, sorry. Or I'll say, okay, well then less time, whatever. We have that back and forth. But for the most part, I'm usually saying, I'm quoting it like I would any other client. But there can be times that because there are procurement departments and legal department, all these layers of people who have a say in how those vendor relationships are structured, sometimes you do have an entity saying like, nope, for this type of thing, you're only allowed to pay people this much. And so that was the situation that she ran into where she's like excited about this opportunity. She wants to do the work. You know, she's excited to see what it's like to work with them. She hasn't really worked with them in this capacity yet, but it's like it's still exciting. It's still something she's
Yeah.
eager to do. And also, she's not necessarily got all the business she needs coming out her ears, you know, money and client wise. So if the moment you're in is, you know, the more work, the better. And it is an interesting, like something you're genuinely excited to do. It's not like, well, I'll do it maybe if the price is right. It's like, I'd really like to do this. I'd like the price to be right. But, and like she even did put together a proposal and it came back, hey, we're not going to be able to do it this way because this is what procurement says. And so it was significantly lower than her usual hourly rate. And so she sends me a message and she's like, I'm not sure what to do. And, you know, they won't do a retainer agreement. They won't agree to a minimum commitment of, you know, per project, that it's a minimum number of hours, like the way we might say for event coverage, it's a 2-hour minimum or something. So they won't do that and they won't budge on rate. They're like, nope, we are locked in at this low price. And so my question to her was, okay, well, so before you just say no, a few things to think about is that if you are billing them hourly for this low rate, then maybe think about how you bill hourly in a different way than you're used to. So, for example, her normal hourly rate might encompass literally all of the time she knows she spends on a project, but she's only counting the hours according to like the times she's an illustrator. You know what I mean? So the way that like my hourly rate for event photography, or the way that I break down my day rate, I'm pricing that according, like I'm communicating that to the client in order of like time on site. But I've come to that number based on both my time on site, my time before, my time after. And so my suggestion to her was maybe think about, well, you're not only going to be billing for the time that you're actually in Illustrator working on it, you're also going to be billing for the time you're going back and forth in emails, the time that you're on a call to discuss the project, the times that you're exporting those files and doing all that prep work of like the 8 different file types you deliver stuff in. And, you know, so literally every minute, not
Right.
just the truncated version that you normally do that for the sake of simplicity. So I was like, that's something to consider. 1. And 2, you can also consider that it could be worth it to like try out a project and see how it goes. See if you really like it because, you know, one of her things was, well, if it's going to be this hourly rate, I would want it to be a minimum of, you know, X hours. Well, okay. Maybe try a project or two and see, like, maybe it is always that number. Like, maybe it is always at least 3 hours of work. Maybe you can always, you know, if you don't really want to be having to remember to set a timer to track all that admin and other time, just always add in a buffer of an hour or two, or for every 2 hours of design work, you add another buffer hour because you just know, because you're a freaking professional, you've been doing this for a while, that like there is time beyond just the time you are literally, you know, moving
Sitting down
pixels.
drawing. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So those are some ideas. So the whole reason that I feel like this is helpful to think through is because I think that as creatives and people who like, we've done all this great work of knowing our worth, and it's true, the things we do are so valuable and people need them. But the reality is that if the state of the world is such that we are feeling a little more stressed and pressured, that's still true for a lot of things. Maybe not the millionaires for sure, but budgets do, our clients do face pressure to like be tighter on budgets because nobody knows what's going to happen and we're all a little worried. So it just ends up being a trickle down effect. And I've always seen it as like, I see two paths. I can either be really grumpy about it, like stay really grumpy about it and be like, bump that. I'm not backing down for any reason. My day rate's $6,000 no matter what. And you can either take it or leave it. And just more people might be leaving it. And as long as I'm okay with maybe picking up a side job of like waiting tape, going back to like being a barista, which I did love, but like, unless I can do that, or I can be like, nope, I still want to keep doing this all the time. So maybe I'm going to do a few more projects than my ideal scenario would have me doing to make sure I'm still hitting my numbers. So I don't know. I think you have a choice of being a little flexible in a way that isn't extremely devaluing, isn't extremely damaging to the industry, but like, I don't know, lets you still do work and work with great people and ride out this economic weirdness together. Yeah, that's my soapbox.
I think you touch on a lot of really great points, which is one, we don't always account for all of the minutes that we're spending thinking about a project. Especially in the design and photography world, or any creative world, really. Like, there is a lot of just mental thinking about the project. Like, you're cooking dinner and you're still ruminating on how is that going to go together, or how is that layout going to work, or what is the font or the topography or the colors, or how am I going to integrate those crazy photos they sent me into this, thing, because the photos and the brand like don't mesh. And from a photographer standpoint, we're thinking about, do we have the right gear? Do I need to rent gear? Did I communicate X, Y, and Z to, my crew, or, my husband if he's my crew, right? Or like, did I clear my cards and charge my batteries? Like, all of that stuff is still running around in your brain, even though we're not physically charging for it. I think,
Right.
and I think it's an important point, like that admin time. There's so much admin time, especially when you're working on a design project. There's extraordinarily amount of go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth,
Oh
right?
my
Because
gosh.
it's like, oh, you want these changes. Okay, well, I
Yeah.
made those changes. Okay, well, go do these changes. Or what about that changes? Or, these 7 other people have to chime in too. Okay, well, now we have to schedule a call while all 7 people are there. And that is just an amazing amount of time that gets sucked into just coordination. So
Yeah.
I 100% agree with like, look, if you hire a lawyer, they bill you for every single minute. Literally
Yeah,
every
do.
single minute. They pick up a piece of paper and move it from one side of the desk to the other side of the desk, and your name is on that piece of paper. They bill you for that transfer to the other side of the desk.
When I had to do my custody stuff, I remember looking at I got this crazy bill from my lawyer and I was like, what the heck is even on here? We had like one call and I literally saw like answered an email and I was like, are you like, okay.
Yeah. But
really, that email cost me $100? Are you like, or whatever it was, and it took you 5? Anyways, sorry.
Yeah, but I mean that. So
but wild.
Like if you look at different industries and you look at how they bill, like they are accounting for that time.
Yeah.
And I think in the industry that you and I are in, like we are accustomed to baking in some of that cost.
Yes.
Into these numbers, whether it is your day rate, your creative fee, even your per hour fee, depending on like what the type of job or scenario is.
Absolutely.
And I'm so glad Charlie agrees with us in all of this, right?
Oh, can you hear him? I'm so sorry.
He's that's Lauren's big old dog in the background.
He's so big.
and he's got an opinion clearly, and he is definitely agreeing with us.
He's agreeing.
But the other thing I wanted to touch on is this idea that you started with, which was she was excited about this project. She's excited to work with this client. there's a potential for long-term here. And there's a way for her to kind of dip her toe in the water to try it out without that future commitment. So I think like there's a lot to consider here where she does have capacity in her current client roster to pick up this job, because it's like, okay, well, here's the trade-off. If you don't pick up the job, then you're back to pitching and trying to find that next client to fill that hole. Or are you willing to take on this client to fill in some of that gap? And yes, maybe initially it feels like a lower rate.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily, but in the end, it could be actually more. Like there
right.
Could be
if you're billing,
more.
If you're actually counting those hours in a different way than you're used to, it might end up kind of all shaking out in the end. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'd love to hear other people's opinions on this. I'd love for the conversation. Like if you're someone who has thought about how to bill differently, whether you're a designer or a photographer or anywhere in the scope of the creative entrepreneur range, hit us up in the DMs over on Instagram, creativecamp.pro. Let us know. How do you think about it? You know, there's a lot of discussion of like, I don't do hourly, I only do project. But in this case, they will only pay her based on hours. So keep that in mind. And if you have an example of something you've tried out and it worked for you, we'd love to know. If you've tried it and it didn't work for you, we want to know that too.
Right. I think this is I'm excited to see what people say about this, because I think it's an important exercise. The last thing I'll say about this is I think it's important for creatives, for like our mental health of being professional creatives, is to be really careful about how long we let ourselves sit in the frustration, right? Like if we can start to just be a little more solution focused of either, no, this is just not the right thing, and let it go and move on, and not hang on to the like just stewing in the anger and the frustration of like things aren't what they used to be or right now. If we can be a little more, how could I make this work? Can I get curious about how this can look different and still feel good, and I'm still doing something that I love to do? That I think is so important for us, not only for our creativity and for our businesses, but for our like our mental health, truly.
So good. Yes.
Love it.
We're going to put the fire out for now, and we'll pick up the conversation over on Instagram. Again, that's creativecamp.pro. You can get all the information in the show notes. And Lauren, this is so fun. I love doing this mini episode with you.
Yeah.
We'll have to sit by the fire again real soon.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. Bye for now.
Bye.
Ever send a pitch and hear nothing back? Well, on October 6th, I'm co-hosting a workshop, Pitching Essentials, with Rachel from Two Love Studios. We're going to show you what to send, when to send it, and how to follow up with confidence. If you join the waitlist, you'll get 10% off when ticket goes on sale on September 29th. You can head to the show notes for the link and jump on that waitlist today. I need to put the fire out for now, but the conversation doesn't have to end here. Come hang out with us on Instagram at creativecamp.pro. Drop your questions, share your thoughts, and tag us in your stories. The more people we gather around the fire, the better the conversation gets. If you'd like to support the show, you can buy us a coffee and sign up for our newsletter. Links are in the show notes below. We'll stoke the fire again real soon, but until then, keep creating, keep connecting, and I'll see you next time around the campfire.